Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can turn your Monday form submissions into a ticket in Zendesk using an app named Zendesk Sync. So before we move ahead with the configuration of this automation, let's first understand what happens when a form gets submitted in Monday. So this is the form that I'll be using for the demo, and I've configured it in such a way that whenever this form gets submitted, Monday.com is going to create a new item under this group form responses. And as you can see that already two items are present over here. That means the form was being submitted twice before I started this recording. And we can see that some of the columns are populated. So these are nothing but the form responses. So now that we know that whenever a new form gets submitted, Monday.com is going to create a new item containing those form responses in it. So let's see how we can turn this into a ticket. So if we see, it provides two recipes in order to do that automation. So first is when an item is created, create new ticket in Zendesk and add ticket link to column for reference. Another one is when an item is created, create new ticket in Zendesk. So if we see both of the recipes, the initial wordings of both of the recipes are exactly same. And the reason is because both of the recipes is going to create a ticket whenever it sees a new item gets created in your board. And that's what happens when a form gets submitted, right? But this recipe is going to do an extra step of adding a link that points to that newly created ticket in your new item. And for the demo, I'll be using this recipe, and I would highly recommend you to use this recipe over the later one, because if I switch to this board and I'll show you that I use the first recipe to turn this item into a Zendesk ticket, and for this one I use the second recipe to turn this into a ticket. Now let's suppose I want to see the ticket link to this item in Zendesk. I can just quickly go over here and click on this ticket link, and it will take me to the Zendesk platform. Whereas for this, if I want to see the ticket that's linked to this item, I need to go to the Zendesk and search for this ticket. So you get to see the advantage that we have using the first recipe over the second one. Now let's start the configuration now. So in order to use this recipe, I'll just click on use template. Okay, so in this recipe, you can see that we need to provide two inputs in order to configure this recipe. So let's see what the first input is asking for. So if I click on it, so it opened up a pop-up for item mapping. On the left, Zendesk Sync is basically listed all the ticket fields that was able to find in my Zendesk platform. And again, this list might be different based on your Zendesk platform configuration. And on your right is where we need to provide the column by which we'll tell Zendesk saying that for a particular ticket field, from which column the value needs to be taken. What do I mean by that is, let's suppose for the ticket subject, I want that its value should be taken from name column, and by name column I mean this column, which is nothing but the item name. And for ticket description, I want it to be taken from the ticket description column. The next field I want to be populated is the category, and it should be taken from the category column. And lastly, for the requester field, it should be taken from the requester column. And one thing you need to make sure over here is that the column that you're using to map the ticket requester field, that column should be of type email. And another thing you might have noticed is that only the subject and the description field contains a star mark at the end. So here Zendesk Sync app is saying that doesn't matter if you are mapping the rest of the fields or no. You should at least map the subject and the description, because Zendesk Sync needs these two fields in order to create a ticket in Zendesk. So on also make sure that the column that you have mapped over here, that column should not be empty when an item gets created over here. Otherwise, it will also cause an error in the process. Okay, so once you are done with all the mappings and making sure these two fields are mapped, you just click on done. And let's move on to the second input, where we have to basically select the column where I want the ticket link to be populated. And that's definitely my ticket ref column. And then I'll just click on create automation. That should configure my automation. And let's quickly switch to the form, and let me just click on submit, and I'll switch to this board. You can see that item got created. Just keep an eye on this column. once the ticket gets created, it will get populated, and you can see that it did get populated. Now just I'll just click on this link to switch to Zendesk platform and see that the ticket values are copied properly or not. So the first thing that I'll check is that the ticket subject is says 20% off not working. So I remember it to map it with the item name. So and I can see, yeah, that's this exactly what the item name says over here. And for the description, yeah, it is over here exactly the same. And for the requester, the email was customer@example.com. And if I see on my right here, Zendex is telling me that this customer with the email as customer@example.com has reported this ticket. And for the category, it says promotion. So let's see on my left, I can see that the category does say promotions. So as you can see, with just one recipe that takes few seconds of configuration, I was able to turn my monday.com form submissions into a Zendex ticket. Thank you.